The People Could Fly, guided close read. Virginia Hamilton created a narrator, the person who tells a story, who sounds like an African American storyteller from the days of slavery. Folktales come from an oral tradition. They were told aloud long before they were written. The narrator uses speech rhythms and language like that of a storyteller speaking to an audience, so that you can imagine yourself as a listener as you read. Folktales are stories passed down by word of mouth from generation to generation. Folktales often feature supernatural events and characters with supernatural abilities. Reread lines 1 through 9. Identify supernatural abilities that seem likely to be important in the story. Pause while you think. Some of the African people had the magical power to fly, though they shed their wings after being captured. A summary is a brief retelling of the most important details of setting, characters, and events. Reread lines 10 through 18. What seems most important to remember about the characters who could no longer breathe the sweet scent of Africa? Pause while you think. Once the people were in the land of slavery, some still had the secret power of flying, though they looked like everyone else. Conflict is a struggle between opposing forces. The conflict sets up the story action and is important to include in a summary. Reread the 2 paragraphs beginning on line 33. Summarize the conflict shown. Pause while you think. The conflict is between the cruel overseer and the young mother named Sarah. When she doesn't quiet her baby, the overseer whips it. A folktale may be told in dialect, a style of language specific to a particular place or culture. Dialect can help readers hear how the narrator and characters sound. Reread lines 64 through 70. Find the dialect and explain its effect. Pause while you think. The narrator says say instead of they say, drops the final G in hollering, and says they that was there instead of those who were there. The speaker sounds natural and sincere. When you summarize a story, you should include information about the most important characters and events. Reread lines 98 to 109. Summarize what is most important to recall about old Toby and the people who could fly. Pause while you think. The slave old Toby is a seer. He still remembers the ancient magical words that cause all the people who could fly to rise into the air to freedom. Old Toby flies too. A story's conflict is usually resolved by its end. This part of the plot, called the resolution, is the final part of a story summary. Reread lines 110 through 115. Suggest a final sentence of this story summary. Pause while you think. The people who could fly escaped to freedom, but those who couldn't remain enslaved with only the hope of escape. A folktale reveals what is important to the cultural group that first told it. Values such as cleverness and courage are often features of folktales. Reread lines 118 through 123. Identify textual evidence and discuss details that reveal values that are important to those who told this story. Pause while you think. The sentence, "They did so love firelight and freedom and tellin'," shows that people use stories to pass down values such as hope, love of freedom, connections to one's past and future, and triumph over oppression.